So today we are looking at the wedding checklist. So if you've just got engaged, you will find that there are so many things you probably should be doing right now, even though you've literally just got engaged. This is really important to get yourself a plan in action, especially if you want your wedding preparations to run smoothly. And what bride doesn't want to have it easy rather than stressing out every single day and turning grey before your wedding has even arrived. So there are certain things that you should look to do depending on how long you have between your actual engagement and your wedding. An average bride will have between a year and 18 months to plan their wedding. Some people obviously do it shorter, some people obviously take longer. So the checklist I'm going to do today for you is for an 18-month wedding. I think 18 months is a good starting point for your planning. It gives you enough time. Excuse my son, he's sneezing like a... So to go from 18 months to the present day, you will find there are so many things you should be doing. So right now, if you're looking at this video and you're engaged right this second, you need to go out there, you need to have a party, you need to stick it in a newspaper, you need to tell the world that you're engaged. Let all your family know, let your friends know. And the next thing to do is to talk to your fiancé about the big day. How does he see the wedding? How do you see the wedding? And the idea is to try and come up with a plan of action on whether you want a themed wedding, whether you want a simple wedding, when you want a lavish wedding, so that you can start nailing down certain details of your wedding. So the next important thing would be choosing the ceremony venue. So do you want a civil wedding? Do you want a big fancy church wedding? Do you want a wedding in a garden? Do you want a wedding in the middle of a field? Obviously, there's legal stuff behind each of those weddings. You need to start researching different things, like how long you have to give notice to marry in places, whether you can get on a wait list if the place is full that you want, and start assessing. The main thing of your wedding is the budget. Now, do you want a big lavish wedding, spend 15, 20, sometimes people spend up to 50 grand on a wedding and they're still paying for it years later? Do you want a smaller ceremony where it's just friends and family? So the cost of your budget is sometimes what gives you the plan for your wedding. A smaller budget means a smaller wedding, which means a smaller venue. So that can then help. Then looking at different venue ideas. So if you want a small wedding, you're not limited to where you can have a small wedding. You can go from a barn to a hotel. You can have it in a registry office. You could have it in a middle of a field if you want, and have it in a marquee. So the choice of your budget doesn't necessarily mean you have to have a small civil ceremony in a registry office. It just means you might have to be a bit more creative with the rest of the budget on how you then decorate your wedding and the rest. So then you start thinking about dates. Like I said, this one is an 18-month wedding. So if you have a particular day that's special to you, or you want it in a particular season, whether it be spring, summer, autumn, or winter, if you don't care, then that's good. You can just pick a random date. Some people have a preference for times of the year on their weddings. So we've hit 12 months. So you've gone from a year and a half to a year, just like that. You'd be surprised how quick time flies when you're planning a wedding. So the next part is 12 months. So 12 months down the line, you now have finalised your wedding date, and next comes the really fun parts. You need to choose your bridesmaids, who you want, notify them, and start getting them to help you with your preparations. Things like completing your guest list would be a good one. That way you can assess how much budget you have for the rest of the wedding as well, so that'll also help you. Things like arranging the license with the registrar as well. So like I was saying, the registrar, and then comes booking the registrar. If you haven't already booked your venue or your registrar, you really should with only like a year to go, because things book up really quickly. Starting to look at photographers, even starting to look at your dress, ideas for dresses, places you want to go, because it can take a really long time to find that perfect wedding dress. Now we've skipped to 9 months, so we've lost another 3 months. Where has time gone? So now you should have decided on your catering. You should have booked your venue, so then you know whether you're having a buffet or a sit-down meal, depending on your venue. So you've already probably spoke to the caterers within the venue on what you actually want. If you haven't already, you've probably ordered your dress, or you're in the process of finding the perfect dress. I know it can take a long time to find the perfect dress. You might also be having your dress made, which can take time. So do think about the time constraints. Booking your florist, going to look at flowers, seeing some samples also takes time. You need to give the florist enough notice in case there's changes. Ordering your cake. Cake tasting is also a good and fun thing to do. Who doesn't love tasting cake? Booking your invitations. If you haven't already sent your invitations out and there's only 9 months to the wedding, you really should start sending them out. You want to give your guests enough notice to be able to come. If not, you're going to have this great big lavish wedding, all this food, and you're not going to have many guests. Booking a band or a DJ or entertainment. If you have a specific band, you might want to check in advance that they're actually free. If you want to have like discos and everything, you need to check the availability. Right, zip forward. Now we're down to 6 months. So we've gone right the way through down to 6 months now. So this is like getting to the nitty gritty bits where you need to start, if you haven't already, getting things in order. So this is sending out your save the date cards if you haven't already. And if you have sent them out, then it's invitation time. You need to book your transport. You need to decide whether you want to go in a limo or a vintage car or a horse and carriage, and you need to find your way to and from the venue. And also you might need to find yourself to and from the reception as well, to the airport before you leave for your honeymoon. You need to go out and you need to get your bridesmaids dresses. You need your groom's wedding suit, or you need the attendants ones as well, like your usherman, your flower girls and everything. You need to make sure that they're all kitted out with their outfits, as well as yourself, obviously, who's the main point of focal point. Booking your honeymoon. If you want to go on a honeymoon and you want to go straight from your wedding, you'll need to make sure that you book it. You'll have to excuse my son in the background. He's playing Fortnite, so I will try my best to talk over him. You need to have your dress fitting. If you haven't bought your dress or you've had one made, it might be time to have a fitting and just check. So as I said, you need to then think of where you're staying. If you're going on a honeymoon, you may need to book a night before you go on your honeymoon. So the night of the wedding, you will need somewhere to stay, obviously. You're not planning to stay at the reception. If you're going to have your hair and makeup done, not by your friends and family, then you need to start booking your hair and makeup. They're very important things, and obviously you're going to need to schedule the times during the day that you're going to be needing them. Also, if you're going to have readings or anything special during your ceremony, whether it's things like doves being released, special readings, singers, whether you're going to have a string quartet in the room. So now we are down to 3 months. This is literally like nail biting time. You should have pretty much most of your wedding sorted by now. Fingers crossed that you have. So if you haven't bought the rings, now is a good time. Sending out invitations is quite late at this time, but if you haven't, you know, it's like a last port of call. Choosing or ordering your wedding favours, whether you're having wedding favours or not. Having a hair and makeup trial is usually done 3 or 4 months before your wedding as well. It's always a good thing to have your hair and that done as a trial, because you could be fussing around on the date and just have no idea what you want. Creating a seating plan. Not everyone has to have a seating plan. I mean, if you haven't in a marquee, you probably won't. You'll probably just have the top table with your parents and the groomsman and the chief bridesmaid, and they're all on the top table. So then we hit your decorations is another big one that should already be in the pipeline or sorted. You've sorted your venue, so you should be able to sort your decor out and how you want to decorate it, whether you want chair sashes, whether you want table decorations. Then we come to 2 months, so this is really counting down the weeks now. So choosing the music for your ceremony, walking down the aisle, choosing the music for your reception, choosing the music for your first dance are all very important things. If you want a gift list, now is the time to book a gift list. And I also have a gift list video that I will link at the end that I've been doing on my wedding things. You can also check out my Plan Your Wedding playlist, which has gift lists and venues and dresses and loads of good stuff in there. Confirming your menu on how many people you'll have coming. By now you should know who's coming and who isn't, so you can confirm your catering. Confirming the registrar booking that you definitely want to get married is also a good thing. And then finalising your seating plans towards like 4 weeks left. Next you come to a month. So this is literally 4 weeks before your wedding. This is like the worst time for a bride to start overthinking stuff. So you need to write some vows. If you're going to use your own vows, you need to get time to think about them. Choosing and making sure you have all your suppliers sorted. Make sure you have your catering done. Make sure you have your direct decorations if you're having someone come in. Make sure that your DJs are booked. Just double checking everything is booked, paid for, deposited and sorted. If you can have a hen and stag party, it's good to have it 2 or 3 weeks before the wedding rather than having it the night before. You don't really want to have a hen party too close to your wedding. Have your final dress fitting, buy your shoes, buy your accessories, jewellery and anything else you need. Run through your ushers and best man's duties, the same as your bridesmaids. If you want them to do certain things on the day of the wedding, you need to tell them what they're going to be doing so they know. Treat yourself to a spa. So this is get your hair done, get your nails done, get a pedicure, have a tan, have a wax. Basically pamper yourself so that in 3 weeks' time you'll look your absolute best. And then it's organising place cards, table menus if you're having them, table decor, just finalising certain parts of your wedding. Next we come to 2 weeks. So this is like Bridezilla Central. This is packing your honeymoon case if you're going on a honeymoon, or packing your overnight bag if you're then staying in a hotel and you're not jetting straight off. This is talking to your photographer, your videographer about things you want, special pictures you want, how long you want them to stay, special things you're looking for out of them. Buying thank you gifts for everyone in your wedding party. So even if it's just like a pair of cufflinks for your ushers or a little teddy for your flower girl, just buying them a little thank you for participating, helping you, and they've probably done a lot to make your wedding day successful. Next, we get to a week before your wedding. So this is crunch time. This is probably the most stressful day apart from your wedding day that your bride will have. So the week before is spray tan day. Final checks on your dress, your honeymoon, the place, anything that you've booked. Just double, triple, quadruple checking it just until you're happy. You can hold a rehearsal for the wedding. Quite a lot of people hold a rehearsal dinner as well. You don't have to. Arranging for things to be delivered. If you're having your flowers delivered on the day, you'll need to have them delivered to you and the groom. If you want to have the cake delivered to a venue, if you want catering delivered to somewhere else because you're having it somewhere else. Finishing any other projects that you had. If you were doing stuff yourself, you need to finish them. And you also need to collect your dress. Do not leave the day before to collect your dress in case there are any problems with it. You need to give yourself time to rectify it. change things, alter things. And then we come to the stressful day that your bride will have had, which will be the day before the wedding. So this is crunch time. This is night before. This is having a manicure or a pedicure if you haven't already. This is decorating the venue if you're decorating it yourself. This is making your own cake, making your own catering, depending on if you're doing it yourself or you're having it all done in-house. And basically having your luggage taken to the hotel or given to another member of your family who will then deal with it for the next day. Having a relaxing evening, because tomorrow is going to be the most stressful day of a bride's life, second to possibly having a baby. But the idea is to relax, have a bath, have a glass of wine, stop thinking about your wedding just for an evening, because you're going to think enough to last a lifetime the very next day. I mean, that would be the most stressful thing you've probably ever done. But you'll find that on your wedding day, all the worries you had leading up to it will just suddenly disappear. Not speaking from experience, because I myself am not married. But I have thought about my wedding and planned my wedding enough times to realise that you don't have to stress about stuff, little things that don't matter. The thing that matters on the day is that you and your future husband are at the altar, you're in the marquee, you're in the middle of the field, you're declaring your undying love for each other, and you're marrying the man or woman that you want to spend the rest of your life with. So the actual wedding day should be plain sailing if you have already followed the checklist to the plan, you've booked everything, you've double checked everything, you've had as many things go wrong as possible and you come through it all, and now you've got your wedding day. So the best thing about your wedding day is getting up in the morning, spending the day with your mum and your bridesmaids in the morning, having a good breakfast which will calm your nerves, having your hair done, putting your dress on, and finally getting married in a beautiful reception decorated with the flowers. Then you'll head on to your reception, which hopefully everything's gone swimmingly that you've booked. You'll have a DJ, you'll have a string quartet, you'll have your entertainment. Everyone will have a nice jolly food, a nice jolly evening, loads of alcohol, or if you're not having alcohol, whatever else you picked. And then finally finishing the night off with dancing and music, and then leading on to your honeymoon or your night accommodation, and then happily living happily ever after as husband and wife. So this was my wedding checklist. It's not as thorough as it could be. There are so many other little details that you could go and look through and plan, but you don't want to get into micro planning. I mean, plan your wedding day, but don't let it overtake you and run your life. You don't want to regret everything you've done by the time you get married or even afterwards. And remember, the budget is important, but it isn't everything. You can have a nice wedding on the cheap without spending a lot. And if you don't believe me, you can check out my wedding tips to plan your budget wedding, which I will link at the end, as well as all my other plan your wedding day videos. So you can have a wedding on a budget. I have done a video on that as well. So if you want to like and subscribe, please do so. And I will see you very soon for another wedding inspired video. Take care and thanks for watching. Bye.